Well, it's cold and windy here in the DC area, but I've got the hottest version of a new Hyundai. This is Out Motorsports, the channel for cars as you are. My name is Jake, and I am here with the 2024 Hyundai Kona N-Line. This is the spiciest version of the new Kona, which comes in a variety of drivetrains, including a fully electric model, and Hyundai sent me this one to check out. Now, I've driven the prior generation Hyundai Kona N, which was basically a hatchback version of the Elantra N spicy sedan that a lot of us, myself included, really enjoy. But this is not that. The N-Line is going to be mostly an appearance package, and Hyundai offers this same drivetrain in a limited trim as well, which is actually the one I might end up picking if I really were in the market for one of these and fell in love with it. So let's talk about what this thing is, what it's not, and what else they're doing with the Kona lineup for 2024 onward, because there's a lot going on here. So first things first, drivetrains with the 2024 Kona. Hyundai offers a lot of stuff here. So first of all, this one is a gas-only model, and they have two different engines in the gas-only Konas. Then they've got a full EV. So this one is the gas model. We're going to talk about the gas model, but this being an N-Line, this and the Limited get the turbocharged 1.6-liter four-cylinder. That is going to make 190 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. Now, if you don't need or want all of that, which, I don't know, I love horsepower, but if you don't really care, you can get the SE or the SEL trim levels. Those will get a naturally aspirated 2-liter, and that makes 147 horsepower and 130-something pound-feet of torque. It's going to be significantly slower than this one. So this has that turbo. It's got nearly 200 horsepowers and torques, and that is going to be pretty decent for most people doing most things. And that is paired to an 8-speed torque converter automatic transmission and optional all-wheel drive with a center diff lock. You don't have to get all-wheel drive on the N-Line or the Limited that shares this engine. You can get them as front-wheel drive models. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to get a utility vehicle, which this kind of toes the line with, it's a big hatch, you might as well get the one that's the most utilitarian, so all-wheel drive with that diff lock. But if you live somewhere like Florida where you never get all this snow, it's all this is a lot for us, but if you don't need all-wheel drive, they'll sell it to you as a front-wheel drive car. Now, the other changes with the Kona N-Line in particular include painted body cladding. So all of this going on here is going to be painted body color. You get unique 19-inch wheels here, and you get this kind of silly, kind of fun, kind of cheeky rear spoiler. Those are your differences with the N-Line. Hyundai has not changed the suspension on these. They have not done anything with the brakes. They're not full-on N cars. So this is largely an appearance package that they are selling here. Now, if you get all-wheel drive, you are going to get a multi-link rear suspension setup versus a torsion beam, because really it's a packaging thing. Now, a lot of people say multi-link is better than torsion beam. I think torsion beam can be totally fine if it's set up right, but the multi-link is what you're going to get on any Kona if you get the all-wheel drive. Now, the other interesting thing to mention here, the N-Line is in theory going to be the most fun version of this car, at least if you pick the gas model, and Hyundai doesn't let you get the fun colors on it. So they have a really fun like neon yellow, they have a really fun bright orange, they've got some other colors that are kind of interesting, and this one's gray. And the only like color you can get is this kind of burgundy red, which is fine, but why can't you get the fun one in neon yellow, guys? Like, come on. So I wish they would do that. It just seems like an odd little decision. Now, otherwise, the changes here are going to be focused on the interior as well. Hyundai redid all of these cars, of course, because they're brand new for 24, and they said that the new Kona is designed as an EV first. So, in other words, a lot of cars are designed to be internal combustion first, and then they kind of make allowances to make them an EV. Hyundai said this one's going to be an EV from the start, but we also want to sell a hybrid and a full combustion model. So that's why the styling kind of looks like it does. They got the interior to be very space efficient, and I want to show you all that because A, it's a nice update, and B, it's cold out here. So quick interior tour here. One other thing that Hyundai gives you on the N-Line is these seats. They're going to have these red stripes here, some red stitching, and you get the N logo in the seat back. Now these are going to be kind of a mix of a leather and cloth material. They're actually pretty comfortable, and they're nicely bolstered right here. Now the driver's seat is indeed powered with lumbar, which is a nice touch. And you can see there are the red accents here that carry out through the rest of the interior all the way across the dashboard. So like I said, this is going to be kind of an EV first cabin, which means that Hyundai got a lot of good space utilization out of this. That doesn't mean that it has to be an EV to get it, but they really focused on keeping the cabin airy feeling, and it does feel that way. So first of all, here you've got a digital gauge cluster, which is just a screen, and then you've got another screen over here for your infotainment. This is an updated version of Hyundai's latest infotainment system. You get wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, but this is also really easy to use. The graphics are nice, it's very snappy. I've really enjoyed their setups, they're easy to figure out, and I just think they look nice too. So that is generally pretty good. And then looking down here, you've got plenty of buttons, which again, I really, really love. So all of these are for the sake of controlling your infotainment and your navigation, all that good stuff. And then you've got some hard buttons for your climate control. These are easy to use while driving, really appreciate that. In this case, it's going to be dual zone, which is always a nice touch for your passenger. And then looking further down, this is an interesting little setup here. So this car does have wireless charging. So you've got a wireless charging mat here. Then you've got two USB-C ports. Now, this one is just for charging. This one has the option of being for charging or data. So you can see here, there's kind of this little light and it's got the USB logo and the charging icon versus just the charging. And if you push the button, it will change what it is doing. That is going to be there largely for the sake of not using this port to disconnect CarPlay or Android Auto and switch to a new device if you're connected wirelessly for that and someone else needs to charge. But I like having it plugged in because you get a little bit better sound quality. Now, looking further down here, you do have heated seats for both your front passengers. You've got an auto brake hold function and your drive mode dial with that diff lock. Now, there's also, of course, a button for your parking camera, and just pulls up the rear view camera on its own. It's a nice high quality camera, which I do appreciate. Now, if I pull back from all this and we talk about the steering wheel, this is, again, very simple, just like the rest of the interior. You've got this new logo thing Hyundai's doing. This has got these 4 dots. They debuted this on the Ioniq electric cars. The 4 dots are the letter H in Morse code. Honda first did this with their door chimes in like the 80s. But kind of a neat touch if you know what you're looking at. The steering wheel is nicely laid out, minimal buttons, but they're easy to deal with. All of these are going to be for your infotainment on the right. All of these are going to be for your driver assist and cruise control on the left. And some of these will control what you see in the middle of the cluster. Now, looking over here at your stalks, a couple interesting things going on. You've got auto headlights, auto high beams on this model, which is great. And then over here, you've got your wipers, fantastic. But when you look further down, where's the shifter? Oh, it's this guy right here. So this is kind of an interesting shifter that Hyundai has first debuted on their Ioniq models. You can see it's just sticking off of the column here. And what you do is you put your foot on the brake and you twist forward or back. So forward is drive, which is pretty easy to figure out. Back is reverse, again, easy to figure out. And then you push in on the edge for park. So that is how that works. If you need neutral, you kind of give it a half twist and it will go to neutral. So interesting to use. I kind of like it because it keeps the shifter out of the way and you get this nice big center console area. Now, you do have these cup holders which you can spin in if you just want a big open space for something like a small bag, a purse maybe, and then you hit the buttons and they will slide right back out. One thing I don't love as you look further back, you've got your armrest here, but when you go to open it, there's not a lot of covered storage. So this is all you get that's fully covered is this little tray. Otherwise, you've got just, come on, yeah, there. So you've got this little tray. Otherwise, this down here is just exposed, which I don't like because I live in a city, I park on the street sometimes. This is all just open. I don't want people to see things. I want it all covered. So I've been leaving things in the glove box. Now this also has a nice little shelf here for your passenger if they want to throw their phone up there, some gloves, their wallet, whatever on a road trip. That's great. And then looking further up, you've got sunroof controls, overhead lighting, all that good stuff. Now one other fun thing here is the key for this car. If you look at it this way, it's just a key. If you look at it this way, it's the Hyundai logo. So kind of neat. Curious how this is going to hold up because this is kind of a matte, dark chrome sort of deal going on. And I don't know. It's already scuffed and this car's got 4,600 miles on it. So interesting, might be a little bigger than it needs to be. The other thing about this is that there's no room for the emergency metal key to unlock your doors if you have a dead battery or whatever. That comes on this little doodad here that attaches separately to the keychain. So Just kind of a lot to deal with for the sake of being kind of cheeky, but I admire the effort because it is kind of neat. And then we might as well check out the back seat while we're here, because Hyundai did say that they've got some good interior utilization. These new Konas are going to be longer in overall length and overall wheelbase and wider, so let's see how that works in the back seat here. Now, again, you've got the same sort of materials going on as the front. You've got the red stitching, no real red accents here, but if we go ahead and step in again, you've got some red accents on the vents, a couple more USB-Cs down there. Now, I've got this driver's seat set for me. I'm 6'1", and I've got plenty of leg room and knee room and foot room. This is all fantastic. If I spin the camera around, though, my head is indeed in the ceiling. Granted, I've got big hair today of how I styled it, and I'm also tall. So for most people, I think this back seat will be pretty comfortable. I've got plenty of width too, so if you had two of me here, we'd have plenty of room in between us, and there is a nice, there we go. There is a nice little armrest right here with some cup holders. So I think this would be a fine road tripper if you want to use it for, you know, a family car. You've got plenty of room for people and things in here. These back seats do fold, and you've got plenty of cargo space behind them. So I think this is fairly comfortable for what it is, and Hyundai's got a nice job of space utilization in this car. But of course, we talk about driving here, so let me get back in the driver's seat behind the steering wheel and talk about how this Kona N-Line is to drive. All right, so first things first, let's talk about driving this Hyundai Kona in the city, because that's where a lot of these are gonna get used. And I think it's actually a decent city car, although there's one thing that I don't love, and it's how it builds power. So you'll see it when we get on this on-ramp here in a second, but the one thing is that the way this turbo builds all of the engine's power and torque, Hyundai says this thing makes peak torque at like 1750 RPM, which means if you're trying to just very casually like slough your way around the city and very, very light throttle, it's fine. If you give it just a touch more throttle, then you feel the turbo start to build boost, and you may not want all that extra torque. That's kind of this weird feeling that it gets. It takes some time to adjust for the sake of just being smooth with your inputs and making it so the car doesn't feel super jumpy or whatever. And the other issue there is you can kind of have it build boost and then you don't need it, so you lift throttle and then it's built boost and it's like, oh, what do I do? So it's just something that takes a bit of getting used to. But other than that, I think the suspension is comfortable around town. It's a good mix of, you know, soft and supple for the sake of absorbing bumps and those sorts of things. This one, despite having the sporty wheel and tire package, still has a decent amount of sidewall to it even, so not bad there either. And then as we get on the interstate here, that little torque swell, it really comes on at like 2,500 RPM, and it feels strong. The engine feels good here. And then if I put my foot in it here, transmission does take a sec to really figure out what gear it wants to be in for the sake of a downshift and passing maneuver or an acceleration maneuver if you're not going from a stop. It is not bad for what this kind of car is, and it's just, you know, it's not going to be the snappiest girly out there. It's just a torque converter automatic, and they've just got it programmed to be a little bit lazy. Now, you do have different drive modes. There is a sport mode here, which will make all of this a little more responsive, and then it'll drop to the lowest gear it can and just accelerate as rapidly as possible. But you're not going to drive around in sport mode day to day, so I always want to talk about how things are just in your normal drive mode here. Now, on the interstate, going highway speed, I think the car is, again, pretty well composed. I like how the suspension feels. The acceleration is more than adequate. This is not going to be a Kona N like before. They're just not doing that. It is still not slow. It's not fast, but it's punchy. So, you know, just temper your expectations a little bit. Now, slowing down because no one can handle curves around here, the brake pedal also feels really good. So, nice initial bite, good pedal feel as you keep pushing through the travel, and that is, again, a confidence builder both in the city and on the interstate if people are coming to a quick stop. Now, as we come up to this little dip in the road, this is a great little test of suspension setup here, and that felt good. The car soaked it up nicely without jostling me around too much. It's one of those where a car that's a little too soft will just really toss you around, and right there it just felt nice. I always try to hit that bump leaving the city with at least some sort of speed. A lot of people slow down because they don't want to be jostled around if they're in something older with, you know, tired suspension or whatever. And then right here again, not a lot of side to side, really felt good. Again, if we put our foot in it here. Okay, this is all she's got. This is still plenty quick, and I don't think for the type of person buying this, I don't think it's gonna be slow. It's not gonna be an Elantra N. It's not gonna be super spicy like the old Kona N was, but I think if you're that buyer, you're probably going for the Elantra anyway. You know, this car is meant to be more of an EV first sort of vehicle, like I mentioned, and I don't see them doing the full-on N treatment to it. The dashboard is nice and low. You've got good visibility forward. You've got the two screens here, which are out of your way. The one thing that I don't love is that the infotainment screen at night stays very bright. So it can be distracting. I've messed with all the brightness settings and it just won't go quite as dim as I would like. So that can be a little irritating. Otherwise, this has been plenty fine. You've got plenty of space in here, which is great. The interior is very roomy, even for other tall people. If you put, 4 tall people in here, they've all got room, which I love. And as far as how it drives, it's entirely fine. It's a economy-minded, affordably priced-ish hatchback, and they're going to call it a crossover, whatever. I've also driven it in the snow because we got some rare snow in the DC area while I had this. That's why it's so dirty, like I said, and it does fine. The all-wheel drive does a nice job. I did nothing to it. I didn't need the diff lock for the center diff. I just let it figure itself out, and it was just entirely fine. So generally, this has been nice to drive. I think I would love it even more as a hybrid or an EV, just because they're writing a sporty check here with all the visuals in particular that I don't know if the car is going to cash fully. All right, that is it for this review of the 2024 Hyundai Kona N-Line. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us right here. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Give us a follow on all the other socials you can find us on. And head over to outmotorsports.com/events if you would like to see what we are hosting this year for 2024. We're super excited. We've got 3 different track cross events coming up on the East and West Coast, and we're planning some road rallies as well to get people out and meeting and congregating and kikiing and all that good stuff and driving on some fun back roads. So please head over there, join us. We would love to have you. And until next time, stay safe, be well, stay warm. See you for the next one.